The morning sun was barely up when Daniel stepped into the small coffee shop on 5th Street. He had exactly 45 minutes before his next meeting, and he desperately needed this moment of peace. Being the CEO of a tech company meant his phone never stopped buzzing. His calendar never had empty slots, and people always wanted something from him. He ordered his usual black coffee and found a corner table away from the morning crowd. His laptop was open, emails flooding in, when he felt a small tap on his arm. Daniel looked down and saw a little girl standing beside his table. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with brown pigtails and a faded pink backpack that looked too big for her tiny shoulders. She was holding a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days, one ear hanging by a thread. What caught his attention, though, were her eyes. They were red and puffy, like she'd been crying for a while. Tears were still sliding down her cheeks, and she was trying so hard to be brave, biting her lower lip to stop it from trembling. Daniel glanced around the coffee shop. Where were her parents? Why was a child this young alone in a cafe at 7 in the morning? He wasn't good with kids. He'd built his entire life around business meetings and quarterly reports, not juice boxes and playground rules. "Excuse me, sir," the little girl whispered, her voice so soft he almost didn't hear her. "I need to ask you something really important." Daniel closed his laptop slowly. Something about the way she said it made him pay attention. "Are you lost? Do you need me to call someone?" She shook her head quickly, fresh tears spilling over. "No, I'm not lost. I have a big favor to ask you." She took a shaky breath like she was gathering all her courage. "Sir, could you pretend to be my daddy just for one day, please?" The words hit him like a punch to the chest. Daniel sat there, frozen, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. Of all the things he'd expected to hear that morning, this wasn't even on the list. He looked at her small face, so full of hope and desperation, and he honestly had no idea what to say. What?" was all he could manage. The little girl wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "I know it sounds weird. My teacher said I shouldn't talk to strangers, but you look nice and you look like a daddy. You're wearing a suit and everything." Daniel set his coffee down carefully, his mind racing. This was clearly some kind of emergency. Maybe she was in danger. Maybe someone was looking for her right now. He needed to handle this carefully. "Sweetheart, where's your mom or dad? Are you here with someone?" "My mommy's at work," she said, sniffling. "She works at the big hospital. She had to go in early today for her shift. Mrs. Patterson from next door usually watches me, but she had to take her cat to the vet this morning, so she dropped me at school early. But school doesn't start for another hour, so I walked here. It's only 2 blocks. Daniel felt a mixture of relief and concern. At least she wasn't completely alone in the world. But she'd still wandered into a coffee shop by herself, asking strangers to pretend to be her father. This situation was getting more complicated by the second. "Okay, but I still don't understand. Why do you need someone to pretend to be your daddy?" The little girl clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter. "Today is Father's Day celebration at school. We're having a special event in the afternoon. All the kids are bringing their dads. There's going to be games and races and a picnic. Everyone will have their daddy there." Her voice cracked. "Everyone except me." She pulled out a crumpled flyer from her backpack and handed it to him. Sure enough, it was an invitation to a Father's Day celebration at Riverside Elementary School, 3 o'clock that afternoon. There were cheerful drawings of stick-figure families all around the border. "My daddy died 2 years ago," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was in a car accident. Mommy says he's in heaven now, watching over us, but he can't come to Father's Day. And Mommy has to work. She always has to work." Daniel felt something twist in his chest. He recognized that look in her eyes, that mixture of sadness and loneliness. He'd worn that same expression as a kid, growing up without a father. His dad had left when he was 7, just walked out one day and never came back. His mother had worked 3 jobs to keep them fed, which meant he'd spent a lot of time alone, watching other kids with their dads, wondering what he'd done wrong. "I'm really sorry about your dad," Daniel said quietly, and he meant it. "But I'm sure your mom would want to know you're here. We should call her." "Please don't call her." The girl's eyes went wide with panic. She'll be so sad if she knows I'm upset. She cries sometimes at night when she thinks I'm sleeping. I hear her. She's so tired all the time and I don't want to make it worse. She already feels bad that she can't come to the Father's Day thing. Daniel ran his hand through his hair, completely out of his depth. This was not in any CEO handbook. He should call the school, or the police, or someone who actually knew how to handle this kind of situation. But something stopped him. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she said, a tiny smile appearing through her tears. "Lily Chen." "Lily, I'm Daniel. Look, I understand why you're upset, but I can't just pretend to be your dad. Your mom doesn't know me. Your school doesn't know me. I could get in a lot of trouble. Please," Lily whispered, and there was such raw hope in her voice that it physically hurt to hear it. "Just for a few hours. I promise I'll be really good. I won't ask for anything else ever again. I just don't want to be the only kid without a daddy there. The other kids already ask me where my dad is. Tommy Jackson called me the girl with no dad last week. It made me cry." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about the board meeting he was supposed to attend, the conference call with investors, the merger documents waiting for his signature. None of it seemed important right now compared to this little girl's tears. This was crazy. This was potentially the worst decision he'd ever made. His lawyers would have a heart attack. His assistant would think he'd lost his mind. But when he opened his eyes and saw Lily looking at him with such desperate hope, he felt his resolve crumbling. "What time did you say this event was?" The words came out before he could stop them. Lily's entire face lit up like a sunrise. 3 o'clock. It goes until 5:30. Daniel looked at his watch, then at his phone full of notifications, then back at this little girl who'd somehow walked into his carefully controlled life and turned it upside down in less than 10 minutes. "Okay," he heard himself say, still not quite believing it. "I'll do it. But first, we're going to call your school and let them know you're safe. And we need to make sure your mom knows what's happening. Deal?" "Deal." Lily practically jumped with joy, then threw her arms around him in a hug that nearly knocked his coffee over. As Daniel felt her small arms around him and heard her whispered, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," he wondered what on earth he'd just agreed to. He'd faced hostile takeovers, impossible deadlines, and cutthroat competition without breaking a sweat. But this terrified him more than anything in his business career ever had. He had no idea that this single decision would change everything. Daniel stood outside Riverside Elementary School at 2:45, his tie suddenly feeling too tight. He'd rescheduled 3 meetings, ignored about 50 emails, and told his assistant he had a family emergency, which wasn't technically a lie, even though this wasn't his family. Lily stood beside him, practically bouncing with excitement. She'd changed into a yellow dress that was a bit too small for her, like she'd grown since last year. Her hair was neatly brushed now, tied up with ribbons that didn't quite match. Daniel had made sure to call the school earlier and explain the situation to the principal. After some very uncomfortable questions and a verification call to Lily's mother at the hospital, they'd reluctantly agreed to let him attend. The call with Lily's mom had been even more awkward. Her name was Rachel, and she'd been mortified when the school contacted her. Daniel could hear the exhaustion and embarrassment in her voice as she apologized over and over. But when Lily got on the phone and begged her mom to let the nice man come to the event, promising she'd be good forever, Rachel had finally agreed. Her voice had cracked when she thanked him, and Daniel had to clear his throat before responding. Now, walking through the school gates, Daniel felt completely out of place. Everywhere he looked, there were fathers in casual clothes, jeans and t-shirts, looking comfortable and natural. Here he was in a $1,000 suit carrying a briefcase he didn't even need, about to pretend to be someone's dad when he'd never even held a baby in his life. "There's my teacher, Miss Anderson." Lily grabbed his hand and pulled him forward, her small fingers wrapped around his, trusting and warm, and something in Daniel's chest tightened. Miss Anderson was a woman in her 30s with kind eyes and a patient smile. She looked at Daniel with obvious curiosity but didn't say anything except, "Welcome, Mr. Brooks. We're so glad you could make it." The principal must have briefed her. The school playground had been transformed into a festival area. There were colorful banners everywhere, tables set up with snacks and drinks, and different activity stations scattered around. Kids were running everywhere, showing their dads the artwork displayed on the fence, the science projects on tables, the flower beds they'd planted. Come on, Lily tugged at his sleeve. The three-legged race is starting. Before Daniel could process what was happening, his right leg was tied to Lily's left leg with a soft rope, and they were standing at a starting line with about a dozen other father-daughter pairs. The dad next to him, a friendly guy in a baseball cap, grinned at him. First time? The man asked. That obvious? Daniel replied, trying to figure out how this was supposed to work. Don't worry. The trick is to put your arm around her shoulders and just go slow. It's not about winning. It's about not falling on your face in front of everyone. The whistle blew and chaos erupted. Daniel and Lily lurched forward awkwardly, completely out of sync. Left, right, left, no wait. Both tried to move the same leg at the same time and nearly toppled over. Lily giggled, a sound so pure and happy that Daniel found himself laughing too. They tried again, this time getting 3 steps before stumbling. Other pairs were zooming past them, but Lily didn't seem to care. Okay, Daniel said, catching his breath. Let's try this. When I say go, we both move our tied legs together. Ready, go! They managed to get into a rhythm, hopping and laughing their way down the field. They came in dead last, but Lily was grinning so hard her cheeks must have hurt. Several parents clapped encouragingly, and one dad patted Daniel on the shoulder as they untied their legs. Good effort, man. You'll get it next year. Next year. The words hung in the air. There wouldn't be a next year. This was just one afternoon. But Daniel didn't say that. The next event was worse. An egg and spoon race where Daniel, who normally had the steady hands of a surgeon when signing million-dollar contracts, couldn't keep a plastic egg on a spoon for more than 2 seconds. Lily thought it was hilarious, especially when the egg rolled off and bonked him on the shoe. Then came the father-daughter dance, where kids and their dads were supposed to dance to children's songs. Daniel, who'd taken ballroom dancing lessons for corporate events, had never felt more lost in his life. Lily stood on his shoes while he shuffled around to The Wheels on the Bus, feeling ridiculous and oddly happy at the same time. During a break, they sat under a big oak tree, eating cookies and drinking lemonade. Lily chattered away, telling him about her best friend Sophie, about how she wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up, about her stuffed rabbit collection at home. Daniel found himself actually listening, not just pretending to pay attention like he did in boring meetings. My daddy used to bring me here, Lily said suddenly, looking out at the playground. Her voice got quiet. We'd swing on the swings together. He'd push me really high and I'd try to touch the clouds with my feet. Daniel didn't know what to say, so he just listened. I miss him a lot, she continued. But Mommy says it's okay to miss people and still be happy. She says Daddy would want us to keep smiling and living our lives. Your mom sounds like a smart lady, Daniel said softly. She is. She's the smartest person I know. And she works so hard. Lily picked at the grass. Sometimes she comes home and she's so tired she falls asleep on the couch with her shoes still on. I try to help by being good and not asking for too much stuff, but sometimes I just really wish she didn't have to work so much. The guilt in Lily's voice hit Daniel hard. This little girl was trying to make herself smaller, less of a burden to help her struggling mother. It reminded him so much of his own childhood, trying to be invisible so his mom wouldn't have one more thing to worry about. Hey, Daniel said gently. You know it's okay to wish for things, right? And it's okay to miss your dad and want your mom around more. That doesn't make you bad or ungrateful. It makes you human. Lily looked up at him with those big eyes, and he saw trust there that he definitely hadn't earned. Really? Really? Time for the talent show. Miss Anderson's voice rang out across the playground. Lily's eyes went wide with panic. Oh no, I forgot about that part. What's wrong? Everyone's supposed to perform something with their dad. I didn't know what to do, so I signed up to sing. But I'm not very good at singing by myself. I get scared. Daniel's stomach dropped. Public speaking was one thing. Public singing was entirely different. Lily, I can't sing, like really can't sing. I got kicked out of the church choir when I was 10. Please? She grabbed his hand. You don't have to sing, just stand next to me. So I'm not alone? And that's how Daniel found himself standing on a small stage in front of about 100 people, while Lily sang You Are My Sunshine in a wobbly, off-key voice that was absolutely perfect in its imperfection. Her hands were shaking and she kept looking at him for reassurance. Daniel smiled and nodded, giving her thumbs up, and slowly her confidence grew. Some kids in the audience giggled, but most of the parents watched with soft expressions. When Lily finished, there was genuine applause and she ran off the stage to hug Daniel's waist. "I did it. I actually did it." "You were amazing," Daniel told her, and meant it. As the afternoon wore on, Daniel found himself relaxing. He met other fathers, had surprisingly normal conversations about everything from traffic to the cost of groceries. Nobody treated him like a CEO or someone important. He was just another dad spending time with his kid. During the picnic dinner, Lily showed him her artwork hanging on the classroom wall. She pointed out her desk, her cubby, her favorite spot in the reading corner. She introduced him to Sophie, her best friend, who whispered loudly that Lily's dad was really tall. As the sun started to set and parents began to leave, Miss Anderson approached them. "Lily, could you go help pack up the art supplies with Sophie for a moment?" Once Lily was out of earshot, the teacher turned to Daniel. Her expression was kind but serious. "I don't know your story, Mr. Brooks, and it's really none of my business. But I've been teaching for 12 years, and I've never seen Lily this happy. Not since her father passed away." Daniel felt uncomfortable under her gaze. "I'm just doing what anyone would do." "No, you're not. Most people would have called security or walked away. The fact that you're here, that you spent your whole afternoon running races and dancing to children's songs and standing on stage, while that sweet girl sang her heart out." Miss Anderson's eyes got a little misty. "That matters more than you know." Daniel didn't know how to respond to that. He'd always measured his worth in profits and productivity. This was completely different territory. The evening ended with all the kids giving their dads handmade cards. Lily presented Daniel with a card decorated with glitter and stickers. Inside, in careful crayon letters, she'd written, "Thank you for being my daddy today. You are the best. Love, Lily." As they walked toward the school gate, Lily's hand in his, Daniel saw a woman in scrubs running toward them. She looked exhausted, her dark hair falling out of its ponytail, but her face was full of worry and relief. Rachel Chen reached them breathless, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from a double shift. Her eyes were red-rimmed, whether from exhaustion or emotion, Daniel couldn't tell. Probably both. "Lily." She dropped to her knees and pulled her daughter into a tight hug. "Baby, are you okay? I'm so sorry I couldn't be here."
"I'm so sorry. It's okay, Mommy."
"Look, I have a card I made." Lily waved the construction paper creation happily. "And we did races and I sang on stage and everything." Rachel looked up at Daniel, her expression a mix of gratitude and mortification. She stood slowly, smoothing down her scrubs self-consciously. "Mr. Brooks, I don't even know how to begin thanking you. What my daughter did this morning was completely inappropriate, and I'm horrified that she put you in this position. Please call me Daniel." "And honestly, it's fine. I had a good time." The words surprised him because they were true. "No, it's not fine." Rachel's voice cracked slightly. "You're a complete stranger. You had your own life, your own plans, and my 6-year-old daughter guilt-tripped you into spending your entire afternoon at a school event. That's not okay." Lily's smile faded, sensing her mother's distress. "Mommy, don't be mad. I'm not mad at you, sweetheart." Rachel's voice softened immediately as she stroked Lily's hair. This isn't how things should be." An awkward silence fell over them. Daniel shifted his briefcase from one hand to the other. This was clearly his cue to leave. He'd done his good deed for the year, maybe the decade. He could go back to his normal life, his high-rise office, his world of quarterly reports and business deals. "Well, I should get going," Daniel said, trying to sound casual. "Lily, it was really nice meeting you. You take care of yourself, okay?" Lily's face fell. She looked like she wanted to hug him, but wasn't sure if she was allowed. Daniel found himself crouching down to her level. "Thank you for asking me to be your daddy today," he said quietly. "I know that took a lot of courage. Will I see you again?" The hope in her voice was almost painful to hear. Daniel glanced at Rachel, who was looking away, clearly trying to hold herself together. "I don't know, kiddo, but I'll never forget today. I promise." He stood up, nodded at Rachel, and walked toward the parking lot. He'd made it maybe 20 steps when he heard Lily burst into tears behind him. He didn't look back. He couldn't. 3 days later, Daniel found himself at that same coffee shop, though he couldn't really explain why. He told himself it was convenient, that he liked their coffee, that it had nothing to do with a little girl with pigtails and a worn stuffed rabbit. He was deep into reading a contract when he heard a familiar voice. Mr. Daniel. He looked up to see Lily practically running toward his table, Rachel hurrying behind her carrying 2 shopping bags. "Lily, don't run in here," Rachel called out, then froze when she saw who Lily was running toward. Her cheeks flushed red. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry again." Daniel couldn't help but smile. "It's okay. Hi, Lily. We're getting breakfast before my dentist appointment," Lily announced proudly. "I don't have any cavities." "That's great," Daniel said, genuinely pleased for her. Rachel looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. "We'll just get our order to go. I don't want to bother you." "You're not bothering me," Daniel heard himself say. "Actually, would you like to sit? I could use a break from these contracts." Rachel hesitated, her pride clearly warring with something else. Finally, she nodded. "Just for a few minutes. I have to get her to the dentist by 9. They sat down and Daniel ordered hot chocolate and a muffin for Lily, coffee for Rachel. The nurse looked even more exhausted than she had 3 days ago. There were fresh dark circles under her eyes and her hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around the warm coffee cup. "Long shifts?" Daniel asked. Rachel laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is it that obvious? I just finished a 16-hour shift at the hospital. We're short-staffed, so I've been picking up extra hours whenever I can. Mommy's saving up for my birthday," Lily chimed in, chocolate mustache on her upper lip. "It's in 2 months and I'm going to be 7. "Lily, don't talk with your mouth full," Rachel said gently, then looked at Daniel apologetically. "I'm sorry about the Father's Day thing. I talked to Lily about it. She knows she can't just approach strangers like that no matter how desperate she feels." "I wasn't trying to be bad," Lily said softly, her joy deflating. "I just wanted to be like the other kids for one day." Rachel's eyes filled with tears and she blinked them back quickly. "I know, baby. And you weren't bad. You were just lonely. And that's my fault." "It's not your fault, Mom," Lily said with the seriousness only a 6-year-old could manage. "You're doing your best." The simple statement seemed to break something in Rachel. She covered her face with her hands for a moment, taking deep breaths. Daniel felt like he was intruding on something private, but he also felt an unexpected urge to help somehow. "Look," Daniel said carefully, "I don't want to overstep, but I have a question. You mentioned you work at Memorial Hospital?" Rachel nodded, composing herself. "Yes, I'm a registered nurse in the ICU. Are you looking for other opportunities? I mean, would you ever consider a different position?" Rachel's eyes narrowed slightly, suspicious. "Why?" Daniel pulled out his phone and opened an email. "My company, Brooks Tech, is opening a new corporate health center next month. We're looking for an experienced nurse to help run it. The position comes with a competitive salary, full benefits, and regular hours. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. No night shifts, no weekends unless there's an emergency." Rachel stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. What?" "I'm serious. We need someone with ICU experience who can handle high-pressure situations. Based on what Lily told me and what I've seen, you seem more than qualified." "You're offering me a job?" Rachel's voice was flat with disbelief. "Because your company happened to need a nurse right when you met me? That's quite a coincidence." "Okay, full disclosure," Daniel said, feeling heat creep up his neck. "I had my assistant look into what positions we're actually hiring for. And yes, we do need a nurse for the health center. But I'll admit I wouldn't have thought about offering it to you if we hadn't met." Rachel set her coffee down carefully. "Mr. Brooks, Daniel, please, Daniel. I appreciate this. Really, I do. But I can't accept charity disguised as a job offer. I've been taking care of myself and my daughter for 2 years now. We're managing." "Are you, though?" The words came out harsher than Daniel intended. He softened his tone. "I'm sorry. That was rude. But Rachel, you're working 16-hour shifts. You're exhausted. Lily told me you fall asleep on the couch with your shoes on. How long can you keep that up before you collapse?" Rachel's jaw tightened. "That's really none of your business. You're right. It's not." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "But this isn't charity. I've actually had my HR department review what we need. We're a tech company with 200 employees who sit at computers all day dealing with carpal tunnel, back problems, stress, and awful posture. We need someone competent who can handle everything from minor emergencies to managing employee wellness programs. The salary is $85,000 a year, plus housing assistance and health insurance. Rachel went pale. $85,000? That's the starting rate for the position. It's based on market research, not sympathy. Lily looked between them, sensing something important was happening. Mommy, what's housing assistance? It means they help pay for where we live, baby. Rachel's voice was distant. She looked at Daniel. Why would you do this for us? You don't know us, Daniel thought about that. Why was he doing this? He'd spent 3 hours with Lily and had 2 brief conversations with Rachel. By all logic, he should have walked away after the Father's Day event and never looked back. Honestly, I don't fully know, he admitted. Maybe it's because Lily reminded me of myself as a kid. My dad left and my mom worked herself into the ground trying to provide for us. I watched her miss every school event, every holiday, every important moment because she was too busy trying to keep us fed and housed. And I swore if I ever had the chance to help someone in that situation, I would. Rachel was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. If I said yes, it wouldn't be charity? It would be you earning a fair salary for important work. The job is real, Rachel. You'd be working for it. And there are no strings attached? No expectations beyond the job? Daniel met her eyes steadily. No strings. You'd report to our HR director and our facilities manager, not to me. I'd have no authority over you at all. If you take the job and hate it, you can quit. If you take the job and we're not satisfied with your performance, we can let you go. Just like any other position. Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, does this mean you wouldn't have to work at night anymore? Rachel looked at her daughter, and something in her expression cracked open. Yeah, baby. It means I could be home for dinner, and bedtime, and breakfast. And could you come to my school play next month? I could come to all your school plays. Lily threw her arms around her mother's neck. Then you should say yes, Mommy. Please say yes. Rachel hugged her daughter tight, tears finally spilling over. When she looked up at Daniel, her pride and her desperation were at war on her face. Finally, she took a shaky breath. Okay, she whispered. Yes, I'll do it. And thank you. 2 months passed faster than Daniel expected. Rachel started her new job at Brooks Tech, and from what he heard through the grapevine, she was exceptional at it. Employees actually looked forward to their health center visits. She'd implemented a wellness program that had people talking, started a stress management workshop, and somehow made the cold clinical space feel warm and welcoming. Daniel told himself he was just checking in on a company investment. That's why he happened to walk past the health center every few days. That's why he asked his assistant how the new nurse was working out. That's why he found himself volunteering to review the health center's quarterly budget personally, instead of delegating it like he normally would. He was lying to himself, and he knew it. The truth was harder to admit. He couldn't stop thinking about Lily's smile at the Father's Day event, or the way Rachel's shoulders had relaxed when she talked about being able to make dinner for her daughter. He'd gone from a man who worked 80-hour weeks without blinking to someone who actually left the office at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays, because he knew that was when Rachel picked Lily up from after school. Care not that he'd talked to them much. A few polite hellos in the hallway. One brief conversation about health insurance policies. He was giving them space, letting Rachel establish herself without any hint that she owed him anything. But he was aware of them in a way that both confused and unsettled him. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. Daniel was in a meeting with his senior team when his assistant knocked urgently on the conference room door. She never interrupted meetings, ever. I'm so sorry, but there's an emergency. Rachel from the health center needs you immediately. Daniel's heart stopped. He was out of his chair and running down the hall before anyone could say another word. He burst into the health center to find Rachel on the phone, her face pale and strained. Yes, I understand. Okay, thank you. She hung up and turned to Daniel. I'm so sorry to pull you out of a meeting, but I didn't know who else to call. It's Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor, the one who watches Lily after I pick her up and need to run errands. She's had a heart attack. They just took her to Memorial Hospital. Oh my God, is she okay? She's stable, but she's 82 years old. They're saying she'll need surgery and weeks of recovery. Rachel was trying to stay composed, but Daniel could see her hands shaking. That's not even the worst part. There's no one else who can watch Lily. Mrs. Patterson was it. Her own children live across the country, and now I have no backup plan. What about other neighbors? Or friends? Rachel laughed, but it sounded broken. I work all the time, Daniel. I don't have friends. I barely know my other neighbors. Mrs. Patterson was the only person I trusted. And now, she pressed her palms against her eyes. I have to pick Lily up from school in an hour, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. I can't bring her here every day. I can't afford a babysitter. I'm going to have to quit, aren't I? I'm going to have to go back to night shift so I can be home during the day when she's at school. The devastation in her voice cut through Daniel like a knife. She'd finally gotten stable ground under her feet, and now it was crumbling again. No, Daniel said firmly. You're not quitting. We'll figure this out. How? I can't just leave a 6-year-old home alone. And I can't afford childcare on top of rent and everything else. Daniel made a decision that would have shocked his board of directors. I'll watch her. Rachel stared at him. What? After school until you're done with work. I'll pick her up and watch her. My office is big enough. She can do homework, read, draw, whatever she needs to do. Daniel, you're the CEO of a company. You can't babysit my daughter? Why not? I have my own office. I make my own schedule. And honestly, most of my late afternoon meetings are pointless anyway. I can take calls while she's there. This is insane. You're talking about taking care of a child every single day. That's not a small favor, that's a massive commitment. I know what I'm offering, Rachel. She shook her head, emotions warring across her face. Why? Why do you keep doing things like this for us? First the job, now this. What do you want from me? The question hung in the air between them. Daniel realized he didn't have a good answer. Or rather, he had an answer he wasn't ready to say out loud. I don't want anything, he said quietly, except maybe to help. Is that so hard to believe? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Yes, actually. In my experience, people don't just help without expecting something in return. Then your experience has been with the wrong people. They stood there in the health center, surrounded by motivational posters about wellness and self-care, having a conversation that felt like it was about so much more than child-care arrangements. Finally, Rachel nodded. Okay, just until I can figure something else out. A week or two, maybe, however long you need. That afternoon, Daniel found himself standing outside Riverside Elementary, watching kids pour out of the building. He spotted Lily immediately, her backpack bouncing as she walked. When she saw him, her whole face lit up like a firework. Mr. Daniel, what are you doing here? Your mom asked me to pick you up today. Mrs. Patterson is sick, so I'm going to hang out with you until your mom is done with work. Is that okay? Is Mrs. Patterson going to be all right? Daniel appreciated that her first thought was concern for her neighbor. The doctors are taking good care of her. She's going to be okay, but she needs to rest for a while. Lily thought about this seriously, then nodded. Okay, so what are we going to do? That's how Daniel ended up with a 6-year-old sitting at his conference table, coloring in a princess book while he took a call about a potential merger. His executive team was baffled when they heard a small voice in the background asking if anyone wanted to see her drawing. His assistant nearly dropped her tablet when she walked in with documents and found Lily helping Daniel organize paper clips by color. The first week was chaos. Daniel learned that children needed snacks at very specific times or they got hangry. He learned that homework involving fractions was more stressful than negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts. He learned that Lily asked approximately 700 questions per hour, and every single one of them required a thoughtful answer, or she'd keep asking. But he also learned that having Lily there made his office feel less cold, that her laughter during a particularly boring conference call made everyone smile, even through the phone. That watching her concentrate on her spelling homework with her tongue sticking out slightly was somehow the best part of his day. Rachel would pick Lily up at 6, always apologetic, always grateful. She'd linger sometimes, asking how the day went, and those conversations started lasting longer. 10 minutes became 20. 20 became an hour. Sometimes she'd accept his offer to order dinner so Lily could eat while they talked. Daniel learned that Rachel loved old movies but never had time to watch them. That she'd wanted to be a doctor but couldn't afford medical school. That she still wore her wedding ring not because she couldn't move on, but because taking it off felt like erasing the good years she'd had. Rachel learned that Daniel had built his company from nothing after dropping out of business school. That his mother had passed away 3 years ago, and he still called her phone sometimes just to hear her voicemail. that underneath the expensive suits and corporate demeanor was someone who'd been lonely for a very long time, but didn't know how to admit it. 3 weeks turned into a month. Then 2 months. Mrs. Patterson recovered but moved to live with her daughter in Florida. Rachel stopped apologizing every time she picked Lily up. Lily started calling Daniel's office our second home, and Daniel realized something that both terrified and thrilled him. This arrangement that was supposed to be temporary had become the best part of his life. Coming to work meant seeing Lily's artwork taped to his wall. Evening meetings meant Rachel showing up with tired eyes and a grateful smile. Weekends felt empty because they weren't there. He was falling for them. Both of them. The little girl who'd asked him to be her daddy for a day and the strong, beautiful woman who was trying so hard to give her daughter a good life. The question was, what was he going to do about it? The crisis came on a Thursday night, 3 months after Daniel had started watching Lily. Rachel had just picked up Lily from his office when her phone rang. Daniel saw her face go pale as she listened. When she hung up, her hands were trembling. I have to go back to the hospital. Right now. There's been a major accident on the highway. Multiple casualties coming in. They're calling in everyone who's available. She looked at Lily, then at Daniel, panic clear in her eyes. I don't have anyone to watch her. It's almost 7. This could go all night. I'll take her, Daniel said without hesitation. Daniel, I can't ask you to do that. You've already done so much today and it's not fair to... Rachel, people need you. Go, Lily will be fine with me. Rachel crouched down to Lily's level, smoothing her daughter's hair. Baby, you're going to stay with Mr. Daniel tonight, okay? I have to go help some people who are hurt. You're going to save them, right, Mommy? Like a superhero? Rachel's eyes welled up. I'm going to try my very best. You be good for Mr. Daniel, okay? I love you so much. I love you too, Mommy. Go save people. After Rachel rushed out, Lily looked up at Daniel with complete trust. So what do we do now? Daniel looked at this little girl in his expensive office, realizing he had no idea how to handle bedtime routines or what 6-year-olds needed for an overnight stay. Well, first we should probably go to my place. You'll need pajamas and a toothbrush and stuff. I don't have any of that here, Lily said matter-of-factly. Right. Of course she didn't. Okay, new plan. We'll stop by your apartment first to get your things. Lily directed him to the small apartment she shared with her mother. It was tiny, maybe a third of the size of Daniel's home office, but it was clean and full of love. There were pictures everywhere, Lily as a baby, Rachel and a man who must have been her husband on their wedding day, family photos at the park. Daniel waited in the living room while Lily packed her backpack with pajamas, her toothbrush, and several stuffed animals. He noticed the bills stacked on the small kitchen table, the refrigerator covered in Lily's artwork held up by alphabet magnets, the couch that Rachel probably fell asleep on most nights. Okay, I'm ready, Lily announced, her backpack bulging. Daniel's penthouse apartment seemed ridiculously large when they arrived. Lily's eyes went wide as she took in the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, the modern furniture, the kitchen that looked like it had never been used. Wow, she breathed. This is like a castle. More like an empty castle, Daniel muttered, suddenly seeing his home through her eyes. It was beautiful and cold and lonely. They ordered pizza because Daniel's refrigerator contained only bottled water and expired takeout containers. While they waited, Lily explored every room, exclaiming over the view and asking why he had so many rooms if he lived alone. I guess I never really thought about it, Daniel admitted. I just bought the biggest place I could afford. That's silly. You should fill it with people. Empty castles are sad. Out of the mouths of babes, Daniel thought. After dinner, Lily did her homework at his kitchen counter while Daniel tried to answer emails. But he kept getting distracted, watching her concentrate on her math problems, helping her sound out difficult words in her reading assignment. Around 9 o'clock, Lily yawned. I'm sleepy. Daniel set her up in his guest room, which had never been used. She looked impossibly small in the king-sized bed, surrounded by her stuffed animals. He tucked her in awkwardly, not really sure of the protocol. Mr. Daniel? Lily's voice was soft in the darkness. Yeah? Do you think my mommy is okay? She sounded worried. I think your mom is exactly where she needs to be, helping people. She's very brave. She is brave, but sometimes I wish she didn't have to be so brave all the time. I wish she could just be home and not be so tired and sad. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed. Your mom is sad sometimes? At night when she thinks I'm sleeping, I hear her crying. She tries to be happy for me, but I know she misses my daddy, and I know she worries about money and bills and stuff. Lily hugged her rabbit tighter. I try to be really good so she doesn't have to worry about me too. The weight of what this little girl carried broke Daniel's heart. Lily, you know what? Your mom doesn't need you to be perfect. She just needs you to be you, and she's so lucky to have you. Do you think my daddy would be happy that you help us? The question caught Daniel off guard. I don't know. What do you think? Lily was quiet for a moment. I think he would. Mommy says that before my daddy died, he made her promise that if anything happened to him, she'd find someone who made her smile again, someone who'd be good to us. She looked at Daniel with those impossibly wise eyes. You make Mommy smile. I've seen it. She smiles different now than she did before. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. He just sat there, this powerful CEO who commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar decisions, rendered speechless by a 6-year-old's honesty. Mr. Daniel, can I tell you a secret? Of course. Sometimes when I'm at your office and Mommy comes to pick me up and we're all together, it feels like we're a family, like maybe we could be a real family. She paused. Is that okay to think about? Daniel felt something crack open in his chest. Yeah, kiddo. That's okay to think about. Lily smiled sleepily. Good. Because I already decided you'd be a really good daddy if you wanted to be. She fell asleep before Daniel could respond, her small chest rising and falling peacefully. He sat there for a long time watching her sleep, thinking about everything that had happened since that morning in the coffee shop. He'd spent his entire adult life building walls. After his father left, after watching his mother struggle and eventually work herself to death, he'd decided that the only person he could count on was himself. Success meant independence. Love meant vulnerability. Family meant the possibility of loss. But somehow this little girl and her mother had walked right through those walls without even trying. Rachel came to pick up Lily at 2 a.m. She looked exhausted, her scrub stained, but there was a light in her eyes, the look of someone who'd spent hours saving lives and succeeded. How is she? Rachel whispered when Daniel let her in. Sound asleep. She was perfect. Rachel sagged with relief, and without thinking, Daniel caught her, his hands on her shoulders. They stood there in his entryway, closer than they'd ever been, and something shifted between them. Thank you, Rachel said softly, for everything. For today. For the last 3 months. For that first day at the school. Thank you for being there when we needed someone. Rachel, I need to tell you something. Daniel's heart was pounding. This thing between us, you, me, Lily, I know it started as just helping out. But somewhere along the way it became more than that. At least for me. Rachel's breath caught. Daniel, I know the timing might be wrong. I know this is complicated. But I can't keep pretending I'm just your boss or just Lily's babysitter. I care about you. Both of you. And I think I've been waiting my whole life to feel this way about someone. Tears slid down Rachel's cheeks. I'm scared. I lost someone I loved before. What if it works? Daniel interrupted gently. What if this is what we've both been looking for? Rachel looked toward the guest room where her daughter slept. Lily already loves you. She talks about you constantly. If we do this and it doesn't work out, it won't just be my heart that breaks. It'll be hers too. Then we make sure it works out. Not because it's easy, but because you two are worth fighting for. Rachel studied his face for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. That real smile that Lily had talked about. You know what? I think my late husband would have really liked you. And I think he'd be happy that Lily found someone who shows up for her the way you do. So is that a yes? That's a let's take this one day at a time and see what happens. But yeah, I'd like to see where this goes. Daniel pulled her into a hug, and Rachel let herself lean into him, finally allowing someone else to share the weight she'd been carrying alone for so long. 6 months later, Daniel stood in the park where Lily had first approached him, holding 2 small boxes. Rachel stood beside him, and Lily bounced excitedly in front of them. Okay, I know we talked about this, Daniel said, his voice shaking slightly, but I wanted to do it officially. He opened the first box, revealing a beautiful engagement ring. Rachel gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Then he opened the second box. Inside was a delicate necklace with a small heart pendant. He knelt down to Lily's level. Lily, I'm asking your mom to marry me, but I'm also asking you if you'd let me be your dad. Not pretend, not just for a day, but for real. Forever. Lily threw her arms around him. Yes, 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 yes. I knew you'd be my daddy for real someday. Daniel looked up at Rachel, who was crying and nodding. Is that a yes from you too? You already know the answer, she said through her tears. It's been yes for a while now. As Daniel slipped the ring on Rachel's finger and the necklace around Lily's neck, he thought about that morning in the coffee shop. How he'd almost said no. How he'd almost walked away. Sometimes the best things in life start with a simple question from a brave little girl and a stranger willing to say yes.